What's the point of reading if sparknotes and lit charts and AI-generated summaries exist? Why would you struggle to guess what something means if you could just be told? Now, that's a very fair question, honestly, and it's one I think about myself a lot, but I stumbled across a passage in a book recently that I think might help us answer it. The book is called The Uncommon Reader by Alan Bennett, and it's a really lovely, short book in which the Queen of England gets seriously hooked on reading for the first time, and a lot changes in the palace and people aren't happy with how much disruption it's causing, and it's really fantastic. It's pretty cute and funny and very short. Highly recommend. So the quote that I found helpful comes from a part in the story where the queen is remembering in her past all the famous authors she's had the chance to meet, and she's regretting that she hadn't actually read much of their work, and so she regrets it specifically because she couldn't think of anything to say or anything to ask them. And she's complaining about this to her private secretary, whose name is Sir Kevin. And Sir Kevin doesn't get it. He says, "But ma'am must have been briefed, surely." As in, look, if T.S. Eliot came to visit the palace, somebody must have given you the rundown, the bullet points, the highlights. We wouldn't send you into a dinner like that blind. And her response was one of my favorite things I've read all year. And here's the passage. "Of course," said the queen, "but briefing is not reading. In fact, it is the antithesis of reading. Briefing is terse, factual, and to the point. Reading is untidy, discursive, and perpetually inviting. Briefing closes down a subject. Reading opens it up." How brilliant is that? Briefing, summaries, bullets, they close a subject. They say, here's a list of what was important. Learn this list. Trust me. This is it. Do not discuss. Reading, on the other hand, opens a subject. It invites you to ask questions and come along for the ride. It's like, okay, I have a friend, Phil, very good friend, coworker. He was in my wedding. If I were to introduce you to him and I was going to brief you so you knew the important parts ahead of meeting him, I would say, okay, Phil was in the army for like 7 years. He teaches film. He's a really chill guy. He's really into cinematography, both doing it himself and watching movies. He likes to free dive so he can hold his breath for a long time. Also, he's happened to help me jump my car like at least 3 times, so you could maybe ask him about that. Okay, cool. Any questions? Terrific. You've been briefed. You could pass a general knowledge test on Phil. Those are some of the heavy hitting things that you could know about him. But I've closed the subject. I've given you the answer. This is who Phil is. That is what summarizing is. Reading, on the other hand, is like being friends with Phil. Yes, that obviously takes longer than the 30-second summary version. And yes, you do end up with the same core knowledge. I'm friends with Phil, and I ended up with that same information. I know those same facts that you do after reading that brief. But it opens the subject. Friendship invites you to ask, who is this person I'm friends with? What else can I discover? Even if you're not actively trying to do it, it happens over time, over cheeseburgers and coffee and walks. Or in the case of reading books instead of summaries, you can ask, what's here for me that sparknotes didn't think was necessary to include? You know, what non-vital information is actually going to be my favorite thing about this book? Like my favorite part of The Uncommon Reader was this part I just read to you right now. I haven't tried looking at a summary of the book, but I wonder if that would have been included. I might have missed it. And similarly, my favorite thing about Phil, I didn't mention it here. And you know what? I'm not going to. That's something for me and his other friends to get to know. The same way there are tiny things about your friends that you love that I don't get to know. So now, go, make friends, not just connections, and read books, not summaries. All right, have a great day. I'll see you next time. Okay, quick footnote at the end. I don't normally do that, but I just wanted to add, I don't have anything against sparknotes or lit charts or even AI in general. I actually use lit charts pretty extensively when I was reading Blood Meridian and Moby Dick this year because they're heavier books that were a little harder for me to understand. And so when I finished the chapter, I would read the lit chart summary to make sure I didn't miss some important plot information. I think those are totally great in context. I just want to remind myself and remind you that reading a summary is not the same as reading the book, the same way that reading a list of things about your friend is not the same as being friends with that person. So yeah, that's the footnote. Summaries can be totally great. They're just different.
And action.
Good. Bro, that would be crazy. Bro, they were nuts. Yeah, bro. All right, let's